Hey ladies, welcome back to the Whole Health Empowerment Project podcast. Happy to have you here today. If you've ever felt like you need more time, more energy, or a perfect routine to take care of your health, then this episode is for you. So many of us, myself included, get into these little jags where we have this big plan for ourselves of what we're going to do to take care of our health. And we may start off really strong, but as the days go by and life gets in the way, those plans fall apart. Real life is busy and unpredictable. Today, we're going to talk about how to take care of yourself within the life you already have, not the one you haven't yet created, and how that may require a different approach than what you're already doing, one that actually works in the life you're living right now, not based on the one you haven't built yet. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Whole Health Empowerment Project podcast. This show is for women over 40 who are trying to create balance in their life when it comes to food, body, self-care, and wellness. You struggle to put yourself first, to maintain consistency when something isn't perfect, or maybe you feel like you don't have enough time or willpower to achieve the goals you desire. I'm your host, Trisha Stefankowitz, registered dietitian, nutritionist. I've worked with women like you achieve their goals by focusing on the next best step, no matter how messy, and meeting you where you are right now. In this show, you'll learn practical information, actionable strategies, and mindset tweaks so that you can feel healthier, more comfortable in your body, and make choices that work for your life. Come join me in failing forward, one imperfect step at a time, into the journey of health, wellness, and self-care. Welcome to your new project. Somewhere along the way, many women started believing that quote unquote being healthy requires a completely different version of the life than the one they're currently living. A life where you have this uninterrupted time for working out, for meal planning. You can prep perfectly balanced meals all the time. You wake up early and life is peaceful and you're able to get everything in that you want to do. Or that you have this like constant stream of energy and motivation without any distractions. It sounds great. And the ideal plan that you think will probably work in that setting. However, it's likely unrealistic for most women, especially in midlife when you have lots of responsibilities. The reality is that you're not living in a bubble. You're living a life that is full, demanding, messy, and unrealistic. You were judging all the responsibilities of being a woman in midlife with managing your schedule, the schedule of your family, supporting others, constantly shifting priorities, whether it's in the moment or knowing in advance. And on top of all of that, your health now is something that you feel like you need to fit in, but you don't quite know how to do it. And a lot of times it ends up being something that you do later because of all the other responsibilities that you have. The problem with this ideal version of our health that we see on social media, or that we see on Instagram, or we just see anywhere else is that it's being sold as this like all or nothing version. If you can't do a full workout, it doesn't count. If your meals aren't perfectly planned or the perfect composition of protein, then somehow you failed and you didn't get what you needed for that particular meal. If you don't have time for a full routine somehow with your meditation or helping with eliminating your stress, somehow you just skip it all together because you can't manage to do 5 minutes. And so what really happens here during all of this, when we're thinking of this version of what it looks like, is that you wait. You wait for the perfect time. You wait for that perfect hour that you may or may not get throughout the day. You wait for that perfect plan, that perfect level of motivation that's going to come and take you and tell you what to do. But the thing is that it rarely ever comes. And even when it does come, it doesn't last because life doesn't stay calm for too long. And that's why so many women feel like they're constantly starting over. Not because you lack discipline, but because you're trying to follow the version of health that doesn't match the reality of what your life looks like. Real life isn't structured. And so your health can't really be structured either. I mean, you can, especially at the beginning, you can kind of start to do some little things, and over time it may be more structured because you've figured out what's important, how long you need to do something. But a lot of times at the beginning, it doesn't look like that. It looks like interrupted mornings, last minute schedule changes, eating on the go, having this mental overload, not want you to do something, or maybe you're mentally exhausted and you don't want to make any decisions and you already kind of want to know what you're going to do for the day. Maybe you're having days when you're just trying to keep everything together. And here's the shift that I want you to start thinking about. Your health routine should be built for this version of your life, not a perfect one. Because if your routine only works when everything is calm and controlled, it's fragile and it's likely going to fall apart. The moment life gets busy, everything just goes to shit. And that's not something that you're going to be able to maintain consistently over time. So what do you do? What do you do? How do you make your routine sustainable? Because sustainable health isn't about doing everything right. It's about creating habits that fit into your day without requiring extra time each day. Sustainable habits can be done even when you're tired or you're busy. And sustainable habits don't rely on perfect condition. It's flexible, adaptable, and it meets you where you presently are, which is going to be really important. I started thinking about this topic because I too get into this jag where my day may have gotten a hold of me and I may have set aside like 60 minutes to go for a walk, but then all of a sudden I only have a half an hour. And I sit there and debate, like, is it worth it to do a half an hour of exercise, or could I do something else that would be more productive? And it starts to do this like barter that I'm having. And so it started me thinking that I can't be the only one that's doing this, right? And so I think when we talk about sustainable health, instead of thinking I need to work out 60 minutes, just starting to think of where you have time in your day that you can start to move. My son has soccer practice or football practice for us here, for the Europeans out there. And it's about an hour and a half. And he goes a couple of days a week. And sometimes during that time, I will do some work. But other times I'm like, I think I can probably squeeze in a walk, right? And a lot of times it's my brain talking me out of it. Like I can do something more productive during that time. But then it takes me away from doing the thing that I want to do for myself. And so even if I don't feel like it, if I just kind of get into this place where I'm like, all right, if I can just move a little bit, then I'll usually follow through and do more of amount of time, because in my head, it's like, okay, I can just squeeze this in. And then the 5 minutes extends and becomes something else. And maybe that's something that you can do too. Instead of this feeling that you have to meal prep everything, it's kind of like, okay, what's important right now and what needs to be in this meal? Instead of thinking that you need this full self-care routine, including cold plunges and sauna, that you start breaking it down into what's the one thing that you can support yourself right now that's going to be helpful for you. The truth about all of this is that you don't need a separate life to be healthy. You don't need more time, fewer responsibilities, or perfect conditions, although I would like fewer responsibilities. You need a different approach, an approach that works with your life instead of against it. Because when your habits fit into your real everyday life and routine, you'll find yourself being more consistent. You'll find yourself beginning to trust yourself again, knowing that you're going to follow through on what you said you were going to do. And you'll stop starting over and over and over again. So let's talk about this, a more realistic way to think about your health. Instead of seeing health as something that you step into when life is less crazy, less unpredictable, start seeing it as something that exists and that you can have today within whatever season it is that you're in your life. It's in these small shifts that you're making each day, with these mindset tweaks that you're making, with these decisions that you make in between doing everything else you're doing. The moments may not feel like a lot, but this is actually where real change starts to happen. It's in that decision that you make that nobody probably even knows that you're making, that today I'm going to do this thing, or today I'm going to think about something different. And it's about continuing to have that thought or doing that behavior over and over again. And the more consistent you are, the more it's going to extend out and benefit the rest of your life. And you can keep doing it because it's something that fits into where you are right now in a season that may be really hectic. And so all of this is to talk about not feeling like you have to wait for the perfect time or the right time to prioritize your health. It's never going to be the right time. And the right time isn't when life slows down. It's when you decide to start today where you're at with what you have presently. You don't need to save money to do something that's going to get you this result in a year. You don't need to squeeze in this 60-minute workout and then you don't do any of the other things that you need to do. It's about building these tiny habits and making them consistent. And then once you're able to do that consistently, then maybe that 60-minute workout will be easier to do. You've found this space in your day to be able to do that. But I think a lot of times when we first start focusing in on our health, or perhaps we're in a season where our health may take a little bit of a decline, that you give yourself permission, that you do what you can at this particular moment and still feel like you're taking care of yourself, and still knowing that you do have the space to fit it in, and to know that your health was never meant to be separate. Your health was meant to be part of your everyday life in however that looks like to you. And I think that there's this huge disconnect with women where you're trying to follow this structured health routine inside a life that is unstructured, crazy, demanding. And those two things just don't match, at least not right now. I'm not saying that it can in the future. There probably will be a time, if you're able to be consistent with whatever you're doing, that it does match. But the goal of this is just to try to get you to a place that you start to kind of align them a little bit more and not feel like you have to keep starting over again, that you create routines and habits that can be a little bit more consistent, no matter how small they may seem to you right now. And so this looks like, things happening in our life that is unstructured, that your plans are changing in the last minute, you're skipping meals and then you're overeating later because you're starving. You have a day where you have the best intentions of making your health a priority, but then you're being pulled in multiple directions throughout the day. and feeling like you're already mentally drained. And that's not even when you're thinking about your health. So even if you plan your day, life still happens. Kids get sick. Your parents may be aging and they need your help. Maybe you have a lot of stress that's built into your day. And suddenly all of the things that you thought that you wanted to do and that you had perfectly planned, well, they're the first things to go. And so structure isn't the problem here. Sometimes it's that there's this rigidity built into the structure, that your health routine depends on a specific time that you're going to do something, a specific plan, a specific level or energy or motivation that you have to feel in order to start it. And what happens here is that there's so much fragility around this rigidity that you may feel like you're completely off track as the day goes along, or there's no middle ground, or if one piece of your day shifts, then everything falls apart. But real life here, the life that you're trying to currently live and then also prioritizing your health in here, it lives in this middle ground. So in order to be able to kind of do some of these things, it's this idea of shifting to be a little bit more flexible in your routine and in the things that you're doing. Because not all days, everything's going to go right. There's going to be some days that you're going to think, gosh, I can do this all the time. I don't know why I wasn't ever able to be consistent. And then there's going to be some days where you're like, holy fuck, I'm barely getting by. And that's okay, because that's real life. And some of the things in how to make these health habits more sustainable is to remember that sustainable habits aren't built on quote unquote perfect days. They're built on how adaptable and flexible you can be with that day. It means your habits can bend or break without, even when life gets busy, and that's okay, because you're figuring out how to be more flexible and how to squeeze in the thing that you're trying to do despite all of the chaos that might be going into your life. One of the ways that this can present itself is that instead of needing to do everything on your busiest days, you start to think, okay, what is the thing that I have to get done today? It doesn't have to be all or nothing. So that hour walk that you may have set aside for yourself, maybe it's that you get 15, 20 minutes in somewhere along the day. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to still be consistent with the action. You still did the thing, maybe not as long as you wanted to, but you're still taking action. And so you're continuing to make that habit consistent, which over time will help you get to the habit that you really want to do if you're able to be consistent. You have maybe a perfectly planned meal that ends up being something that you grab and go, where you're just grabbing protein and something else. You're not lowering your standards here. You're making them realistic for the day that you're having right now, because something will always be better than nothing. And a lot of times we were like, okay, I'm just not going to do it. Forget it. I just failed. But that's not true. You can still maintain some level of what you wanted to do and some level of normalcy. If you can kind of give up on that all or nothing and be like, okay, this is what my day is. I'm just going to have to adapt to what is presented to me. This also includes you not stopping and starting over again. Because if you're able to be flexible, then you have a missed workout and it isn't this, well, I missed one workout, so now I'm going to miss the week, and then you have to start over again. It doesn't mean that you have to quit. You're just able to adjust for what's going on now and then stay back on track. You stay in the process instead of falling out of it. And that's why being consistent is really helpful, no matter how different it may look from your ideal version of your health habit, because no matter what, it'll keep you on track. It'll keep you to continue to do the same task that's really important to you without feeling like you have to start over again and feeling like you're failing somewhere along the way. Also, if you're able to kind of build habits into a day of what your day looks like, and also if you're able to maintain these habits and maintain the consistency of it, you're not going to feel like that you have to overhaul your whole life to be able to maintain this habit. You're going to know, gosh, I can do this habit when the day is perfect and when the day is getting away from me. It might not be the ideal time that you wanted to do the habit, but it looks like that you can do it and that it's not going to fall apart on a day when things get so hectic that life feels like you're not doing anything right. The other thing here is that if you're able to kind of maintain some level of consistency with your habit, you're going to learn to adjust that. If you have a day that you have a lot of energy, you can do more. If you have a day that you're low energy, you do less, but you're still doing something. And that's how consistency is built. You're not forcing yourself to do the same routine no matter what. You're maintaining some level of sustainable health that fits into your life right now. And also, instead of chasing these perfect habits, you start creating a new identity. And you might start thinking to yourself, I'm someone who takes care of myself, even when life is busy. And this may present itself in a variety of ways. It might be that you're moving your body for a few minutes during the day instead of not at all, that you're picking a better option when it comes to your lunch or dinner than you may have in the past, that you feel like it's still fitting your life at present, but also the goals that you're trying to achieve. Maybe you're drinking water instead of completely skipping it, or you're doing the habit to some degree, then skipping it at all, where maybe in the past you would have been like, I'm not going to do it. It doesn't fit into my life. It's crazy. And this is how you send this message to your brain that like, this is who I am now. So as a reminder here, and to kind of bring this all back and put it in this little bow, is that you don't need a stricter plan. You don't need more discipline. You don't need to try harder. You need a way of approaching your health that actually fits into your life, to the season that you are right now. Because life isn't going to be perfectly structured today, and waiting for that moment is going to keep you stuck. Reminder that sustainable health and all those people that you're looking at, I don't know that you're looking at them on social media, but the people that you know that have done the habits that you want to do, their habits weren't built in these ideal conditions. They were built on busy days, in small moments, through flexible and adaptable choices that they made every day, and imperfect action. And so instead of beating yourself up and asking yourself, why can't I stick to this? Why can't I do what they do? Why can't I be more consistent? You start to ask yourself, does this actually fit into my life? Because when it does, and you're able to break it down and you're able to do it on the days, even when you feel like you can't squeeze anything else in because, maybe you don't have an hour, but you have 20 minutes. That's when you start showing up for yourself. That's when you stop starting over again. And that's when everything begins to change for you. So I ask you today, what is a habit that you've been wanting to do, that you've been putting off until your life is quote unquote perfect or more structured, or until you have the perfect day? And start thinking about what that looks like on the days when life gets crazy. How can you be more adaptable? How can you be more flexible to keep that one habit into your life and to make it consistent so that over time it becomes easier and easier and it becomes the reality of who you are? I thank you all for listening today. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with another woman who you think would benefit. And I look forward to seeing you all back here next week. Thanks so much and have a great day. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. If you found value in this podcast, please rate, review, or subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Don't forget to share this episode with your friends. Together, we can take tiny, imperfect steps towards creating the whole health we desire and deserve. Don't forget to grab your freebie. You can find the link in your show notes or over at triciard.com. I'll see you back here next week.